Welcome to the In Shape Fitness Show. I'm Coach Kim. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's podcast is called Ready for the Turkey Trot because it is that time of the year. Next week is Thanksgiving, and as a veteran running coach in New York City, Thanksgiving is a really big deal in New York City. I really love a good run before a big meal. And Thanksgiving Day races, the Turkey Trot, are the best of the recreational running experience. So you want your body to be ready. You want your body to be warmed up on the day of. But start this week and perform. I've got 10 exercises for you to perform. And if you do them every morning, you're going to be so ready to run a 5K. Maybe not racing with the professionals next week on Thanksgiving morning, but you get to celebrate the spirit of the season by pushing your body next week and having a great time doing it. Plus, you're going to learn and practice 10 exercises that without equipment are a really great way to touch all the parts, like get everything going, activate the tissue in all parts of your body in terms of multiplanar movement, in terms of compound movement, using multiple muscles at the same time, in terms of balance, in terms of your strength and flexibility in your trunk and in your legs and upper body as well. So we're going to get started with a quick postural systems check, which is how I always start our exercise regimens. It is called the postural systems check because it is not about moving. It's not about really anything other than your thinking about your body parts, thinking about your natural posture, and breathing. So that in some ways is a bit of a movement because inhaling through your nose, which you want to do deeply, and then gutturally blowing the air out. You bellow the air out through your mouth, and that is the expansion and contraction of your diaphragm, a muscle that resides at the bottom of your lungs and helps fuel your efficient respiration. So you're standing up really tall with your feet shoulder width apart, and you are thinking about the position of your feet. You want your toes and heels to line up, and you want to make sure that you're not pressing into the floor too much with either your heels or the balls of your feet, but rather distributing your body weight along or among all four corners of your feet, if you will. Now think about your legs. Think about the position of your hips. Think about tree trunking your legs. And by that, I mean squeezing the muscles in your legs without locking your knees. You don't really want to lock those joints, but you do want stability. And I call it tree trunking, which isn't really a verb, but I kind of make it into one when I talk about this. You tree trunk your body so that you have stability through your lower pelvis and your butt cheeks. You know, you want to tuck in your tailbone and squeeze on those glutes a little bit. Find your butt, I kind of say, so that your brain really kind of gets a sense of where your butt is and how to contract those muscles. And then you really have strong legs in terms of your sort of stationary stance. Then think about the zip up of your tummy muscles and the pushing back of your shoulders. You don't want that concave look of your chest where your shoulders are rounded forward because you're either typing or driving or just watching a television and holding a remote control. You want your shoulders to be back, lined up with your ears, which in your plumb line, which is the invisible postural line for neutral position, you have the most optimal position of your spine. Now, take a couple more deep breaths. As you think about the very first exercise we're going to do, I want you to think kind of about evolution. We're going to start on the floor. And if you feel like you're sort of tight right now and you need to start fully like embryonic, go crazy and get into child's pose, that's cool because the first exercise is a plank. And I like to start with exercises that activate the core first because especially with some exercise regimens, particularly ones if you're going to be running, I don't want you to do a bunch bunch of jumping around. We are going to do some movement on your feet towards the middle half and latter parts of the workout. But plank is a really great way to begin because you want to juice up your tummy muscles. Now, you should be able to hold a plank for 1 minute. We're going to go for 2 30-second intervals here. So go ahead and get into plank now. Your 30 seconds is starting. And when you get into a plank on your elbows and your feet, your elbows and your shoulders line up. You're 10 seconds in, by the way. You breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Your butt is down. You want to mind, at least think about the flatness, the parallel relationship between your pelvis and the floor. Oftentimes, the right hip lowers down. You've got 5 seconds to go. So keep your hips flat and rest now in child's pose. Okay, so take 5 seconds to rest. 4, 3, 2. Now go back to the plank. If you need to make it easier, you can rest on your knees or the lower part of your quadriceps, your thighs. If you want to make it harder, you can do lots of different things to make a plank harder. I'm sure if you know how to make a plank harder and you want to, go for it. If you don't worry about it. You've got 10 seconds more to go and then you will be finished with your plank. So go ahead and take a couple of more deep breaths. You've got 5 seconds. 4, 3, and rest again in child's pose. Now, if you do not know the value of a plank, send me a note. Go to bodybyinshape.com and go to our Contact Us page and send me a note and ask me to provide you with an explanation about the plank, because it is one of the most valuable ways to spend your exercise time. Yes, it is. It's more valuable than getting on a treadmill and running in many ways. It's something that you really do want to make sure that you build into each of your exercise regimens. Okay, now what I want to do is a little bit of a dynamic flexibility exercise. I call it the dynamic dog because it really is just downward dog into upward facing dog and then back and forth and back and forth. But if you are not an exerciser, you need to be very, very careful. First of all, getting into downward dog is not the easiest of poses for a lot of people who are sedentary. So be very careful. We're going to spend about a minute in total in this pose, in this sort of fluid movement pose. But I only want you to move once or twice in terms of the dynamic part if you are relatively weak. And you want to make sure that you make a triangle with the floor with straight limbs, which means when you extend your arms down to the floor, or lift your butt up off the floor, since you started in child's pose rather, you want to make sure that your legs are straight. Your knee bend, which a lot of people have as a sort of visible evolution happening before our eyes, where people aren't able to stand up and keep their legs straight, or to bend down and keep their legs straight. There's always that slight bend in the knees. So you want to push your knees back and try to get the stretch in through the backs of your legs. You should feel the calf stretching. You should feel your hamstring stretching. And then the dynamic part is to lower the hips down and through your hands into upward facing dog, where your legs do not touch the floor, but rather are sort of levitating using the balls of your feet. And that is upward facing dog. Then you go back to downward facing dog. The other thing you want to be mindful of in this position is making sure that when you pressurize your wrists, when you use your hands on the floor, you splay your fingers. And the reason for that is if you mash the heel of your hand into your floor surface, you're going to put undue pressure on your wrist and fatigue your arms. If you distribute your body weight through the top part of your palm, Spider-Man the floor, kind of, if you will, you're going to help sustain your ability to be in floor exercises. And there's a lot of really great stuff that you can do with your body on the floor that you may not realize you can do. Okay, let's move on. I want you to turn to your back now and lift your body up into a hip bridge. We're not, by the way, picking exercises that are really freakish and unique and fancy. I'm not into that for these podcast workouts, because you want to become an expert in the simple moves. When you have the foundation to understand a basic like the hip bridge, do it well. And I can't see you, obviously. There's another way that you could get me to see you is if you contact our company. We can do some online sort of observations of your exercise regimen so that we can help have you make the adjustments that would help you sort of transcend the health status that you currently have. Hip bridges are done, another exercise that's done incorrectly all the time, but you do want to line up your legs. You want to line up your hips, your knees, and your ankles. And then when you put your feet down on the floor, your knees are bent at about 90 degrees, and then you lift your butt up into the air. Your hands are beside your body next to your body with your palms facing down. And then your hips are in the air. And the thing you want to make sure you do with hip bridge is keep the toes down. Now in hip bridge, like with the plank, there are so many variations that I could spend an entire exercise podcast just talking about the variations of hip bridge that I love. Not even the ones that I don't love so much, but this is just another 20 seconds or so holding the position and thinking about the muscles that are in work, that are contracting. Whether it's an isometric contraction by just holding the pose, or a dip where you're lowering the body and lifting up, contracting the hip flexors and lifting up and through the pelvis. Such a really great exercise because your hips, which are on the outside of your body, the outside of your pelvis, but also really deep inside of your body because they connect along the back of the spine. That's why we have so much lower back pain, because we have crappy hips. We sit all day and our hips are weak and tight, and our backs suffer because of that. But that's just the simple mechanics of the muscle. That's where the muscles insert themselves, your pelvis and your lower spine. Okay, now you're going to, if you're comfortable with your body on the floor lying supine, which means your face up and your hands are still beside your body and your legs are straight. If your lower back doesn't hurt in this position, then stay like this. This is a really easy exercise. All you're going to do is lift your heavy head off of the floor from looking up at your ceiling. You want to lift your head and tuck your chin to your chest and then put your head back. Now, I know what you're thinking. If you're a strong person already, you're thinking this is ridiculous. I should be doing some heavy duty crunches. I should be doing some V-ups or some jackknives or some bicycle crunch or something. But if most of the people that listen to the podcast are not heavy duty exercisers, and even if you are, the strength of your neck is so very important. Do this before you run. And the reason is that in your running, your gait, your head is your ballast. Now, it's your ballast even if you're not running, but especially if you're running a 5K. You want to make sure that you have activated the muscles in your neck. You want your head to be your anchor, because if your head is too far forward as you run, your center of gravity is off. That means your gait is off. It means that your respiration is compromised. Lots of reasons to make sure you have a strong neck. Okay, now we're going to do some side planks. And a side plank is where you turn to your side. Now your legs can be straight and stacked, or you can bend your knees behind you. Now your hip flexors should still be straight, but you can bend your knees behind you and lift up into a side plank in order to shorten the lever a little bit and allow you to stay in that position for 20 seconds. So your time is going. Let's hold for another 15 seconds and then we'll do the other side. Again, I'm trying to use a very short period of time to do the maximum amount of activation of all of your soft tissues in order for you, and the awareness in your brain, in order for you to do well moving around. Now, another added benefit, go ahead and switch sides, by the way. Switch to the other side and repeat the same pose, but with the other side. Your time for 20 seconds is going. The one amazing or just ironic part of all of this is that this warm-up also could be used for a warm-up in other activities. I'm actually getting ready to begin a series with a company here in New York City to talk about holiday fitness. And I've themed the 6-week program in such a way that we start basically right after Thanksgiving. So I'm going to be doing a series of podcasts that run parallel to this series I'm doing with the company. And one of the things that we talk about in the very first week is shopping and the sort of overall idea of how long it takes for your body to fatigue with you moving around. Now, a 5K, even for really slow runners, you're finished, by the way, with your side planks, and we are going to officially stand up now. You're obviously, with a 5K, you're going to be on your feet for about 30, 45 minutes at the most. But if you are shopping, each of us during the holidays is going to go out, whether you're shopping online mostly for, like through a website or Amazon or something, that's fine. But most of us still end up out one day, at least, whether it's for grocery shopping or decoration shopping or gift shopping, doing shopping work on our feet over a period of several hours. And that is a huge endeavor in terms of the load on your spine and just the general fatigue that you develop. Now, the next exercise on your feet is a plie squat. And I make plie squats mixed plie squats into this workout instead of standard ones, because with plies, you have the benefit of that wider foot stance, which is a little more stable. So if you open up your feet to about double shoulder width apart, hold on to the back of a chair if you need to, like pretend it's a ballet bar and you're in a ballet class, channel your inner Baryshnikov here, or maybe your inner Misty Copeland, and turn your toes out a little bit to about 45 degrees, then keep your back straight, lower the body down slowly. You will feel your butt, you will feel your quads, you will feel your inner thighs, then pause at the bottom. You don't want momentum to help you out. So exhale as you lower down, exhale as you lift back up. Inhale as you lower down, exhale as you lift back up. And keep going. Now, back to that sort of self-promotion I was about to do, which is just to say to be ready for a similar workout that's coming with regard to warming up before you go shopping. There are exercises that you should be doing when you head out and you're going to be on your feet all day. It's also important to warm up and do some activating movements, some stimulating movements, if you're planning to go and sit on your butt all day like you do at the office. But that's a whole other part of the year. So we're focused on some holiday fun and cheerfulness. And so we're thinking about ways that you can prepare your body to shop without dropping. So shop until you don't drop type of warming up. And that exercise regimen, that podcast is going to be broadcast next week before the Thanksgiving holiday. So look for that next week. And it's a 6-week program also, or 6-part program. If you are interested in bringing it to your company or to your home, please get in touch with us as well at bodybyInshape.com. Okay, now after our plie squats, the heart rate is up a little bit. You've been interacting with gravity a little bit now. So we're going to slow things down just a smidge and work on your balance. Now, I want you to stand up really tall. Just sort of think about that postural systems check from the very beginning. Again, because you also want to realign yourself, stand up really tall, tuck in your tailbone, zip up your tummy muscles. Now extend your arms out to the sides and let your palms face downwards. Also, splay the fingers. Whenever you get a chance, just open up those fingers. I call it phalange flexibility. That's not part of this workout, but it is something that is really good for you because your toes and your fingertips are the termination points for so many of your nerves. You want to keep the nerve endings active. You don't want them falling asleep and never waking up. So make sure that you move your body. And if you get a chance to move your fingers, do it. Now with the lighthouse, which is what this exercise is called, you're going to bring your feet into a staggered position. Or if you're pretty good, if your balance is pretty good, you're going to go full heel to toe, like you're a tightrope walker. So what you do here to fully activate your vestibular system, which is your equilibrium and balance, is to turn your head. So this is a really easy move to incorporate into a workspace or the subway station if you're in New York City, anywhere, waiting for an elevator or waiting online in front of, for one of your shopping experiences at the grocery store now, getting ready for Thanksgiving. This is called the lighthouse because your head is turning all the way to the right and slowly, and then all the way to the left. That is going to discombobulate the equilibrium of your inner ear and is so helpful to shoot the energy down towards your feet, because this is when all of those small muscles have to activate in order to stabilize this destabilized part of your position of your body. Now switch your feet so that the front foot is different than the previous, and do it again. That's the lighthouse. I almost always work the lighthouse into my exercise regimens with clients in New York City because people have such crappy balance. And again, it all stems from our overall sedentary lifestyles. But even people that exercise a decent amount have trouble standing on one leg. So one easy assessment for yourself is lift up one leg, make like a bird, flamingos. I just wrote about them in the book I just finished called Darwin on the Treadmill. Make like a flamingo and stand on one leg. Can you do it? 30 seconds on each leg without wavering, 1 minute on each leg without wavering. Chances are you can't. If you can, you're probably still likely to have a variance between the two sides that will maybe shock you a little bit. All right, now I promised we're going to do a little more active stuff at the end, and here we are, finding ourselves 21 minutes. I have got 3 more moves. I've got about 4 more minutes, so let's get going with a couple of bunny hops. And hopping is something that people get really scared of, but now your body is warmed up. You want to activate the neurotransmitters that reside in your feet. We just talked about this a little bit with our fingertips, so just bunny hop. You can do it for 30 seconds. It's not a big deal. You can also skip in place if you are afraid of bringing both feet off of the floor at the same time. You're 15 seconds in. So you are bunny hopping. If bunny hopping is too easy, you can lift up one leg and do single leg bunny hops, or you can make them a little bit higher, do some higher jumping. But either way, jumping, some type of plyometric exercise should be built into your warm-up routine before you endeavor to run a recreational race or any of the other stuff that we've already talked about today. Okay, now the last 2 moves are lunges and side kicks. Now, lunges, again, are one of those exercises people don't like to do. They like to reference how their doctor doesn't advise them to do them because of their knees. And the truth of the matter is, of course, if you have conditions, orthopedic issues with your knees, your joints of any type, and you need to have a medical clearance, get it before you start exercising. But if you can do a lunge, a forward lunge, really simple, then let's do a few on each leg. And you want to take a big step out with the right leg, and you want to bend both knees to 90 degrees. And then you go back to your starting position and repeat it. You can alternate legs, but I typically recommend that you stabilize on one leg, focus on the other moving leg for a count of 5, and then switch. And if you're really strong and you think, this is not hard enough, you can extend your arms up over your head as you do your forward lunges. You can twist if you step forward with the right leg, twist your left arm to the right as you lunge forward. That's another sort of multi-dimensional way to make the lunge a little bit more challenging. The last exercise, after you've done 5 or 6 on each leg, you're finished with the lunges. The last exercise is a side kick. And the reason we did one side move already, right, with the side planks. Exercises that activate the lateral parts of your body. We also did the plie squat, so we worked the inner thigh a little bit. But the side kick is great because a lot of people have IT band issues stemming, once again, I sound like a broken record, don't I? It stems from the sedentary lives we live, but because you don't use the side of your leg anymore. You don't interact with the stuff going on to your side, whether it's through rotations or through just lateral movement. So the side kick is fun because you've got a balance. You can hold on to something if you need to. Of course, the back of a chair should always be there for you. But stabilize on your right leg, then lift up the left knee to the side, flex your left foot, and then kick the side. If you're somewhat political, make like you're kicking one of the politicians that you don't like anymore, and kick with the heel of your foot. Remember that striking, the contact point is the heel, which is why I tell you to flex the foot. You also get that nice activation of the hamstring when you flex the foot and you're doing your kicks. And again, do like 5 or 6 on each side. Now, this is a bit unconventional, this warm-up for an exercise regimen like a 5K or a recreational run like a 5K. I'm assuming you're not a professional runner, or you probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast. But believe me when I tell you, having coached for many years for the New York City Roadrunners Club and through my own personal clients with my business, the notion of warming up before you head out to go for a run is real. It is effective. It is the only sustainable way to develop a lifelong interest in moving around with your feet. And I think running is the best because it doesn't require that you have any fancy equipment, maybe fancy shoes if you want them. But that's why I'm not a huge fan of the notion of cycling around as much. But even if you are cycling, this is still a great warm-up for that. And if you have any questions, please get in touch with us through bodybyInShape.com. Again, you can go to our Contact Us page, send me a note. If you need anything in terms of your own personal regimen or have some interest in the 6-part program that I'm developing for the holidays, let me know. I will be around. Have a great day.